Welcome to the House Ag and Natural Resources Budget Committee. Any bill introductions? I have one. It's 24 RS 2513. So you want the number again? Okay. So what this bill does is it's similar if you apply for a out-of-state deer permit or whatever, and you make the application, they automatically sell you a hunting license and an application fee. That's about $157. Then you get a letter back saying you were unsuccessful. They keep your money. And I've dealt with Amazon, and if I order something, normally they get my money back or send me something. So anyway, that's, if there's any objections, or I don't know whatever you'd like to say, but that's what the bill is. And so anyway, hopefully. So today we have the distinction of holding the 26th World Cup event here in the Chambers. So, Mr. Federico, are you leading the charge?
I am, Mr. Chairman, and I am going to try to be very brief because you already heard some of my gibberish the other day where you were kind enough to let me lay a foundation. I am John Federico Durst Consulting, officially representing KC 2026, which is charged with organizing and co-hosting, along with Kansas and Missouri, the largest sporting event in the world. I can't dwell on that enough to tell you what an unbelievable opportunity, what a headache I am imagining for the executive director, of which you'll hear next. But this whole thing is steeped in opportunity for us. And I stood before you a couple of weeks ago and said it would behoove us to get our house in order so that we are as appealing as possible to some of those top line teams that qualify for the World Cup, and they pick our region, and more specifically Kansas, as a place to set up their base camp. There is a lot of opportunity that surrounds these base camps, basically where they'll be training for the better part of a month. With the team and all of their staff and training and coaches come their fans. And that's really where the Kansas side of this whole co-hosting thing pays off for us. There will be a lot of downtime. And they're going to want to do things besides their hotel, besides eating, besides recreation, and it's tourism. They're going to want to go out and see what's what about the Midwest. So any notion that this is an event that would only benefit the Northeast part of the state, I would challenge you to just expand your mind a little bit, to think about tens of thousands of people spending their time on the Kansas side in hotels, and what that means for the entire Kansas economy, from sales tax to direct payments to, again, lodging, restaurants, retail stores, what have you. I mean, it is not an extreme notion to think that the majority of their time they're going to be looking for things to do other than just be soccer fans and watch soccer practices and soccer matches. So I lay that as a very simple and broad foundation. I want to spend just a couple of minutes to talk about the business of sport. I don't care where you are. Sports is a business. And if you are fortunate enough to have a professional sports team in your state, you quickly realize how important that is to the Kansas economy. We have not the Chiefs, not the Royals, we have Sporting Kansas City as our only professional sports team. They are in Kansas City, Kansas, just a short distance away. Also in Kansas City, Kansas, is one of the premier training facilities in the entire country. If you're not a soccer fan, you would never know that Kansas is the soccer capital of America. It's hard to imagine, but we are. And for the most part, it's because we have these two world-class facilities in the state of Kansas. I'm going to leave you with a very simple number. Between Sporting Kansas City and the games they play, the matches there, other events they have at that arena, Children's Mercy Park, and Compass Minerals Training Center, again, just a couple of blocks away, where United States Soccer comes and trains. That facility alone, Compass Minerals Performance Training Center, that generates 10,000 room nights a year, every year. There's 1.3 million visitors that visit that area to take advantage of the soccer fields that surround that training center. Combined with Sporting Kansas City, our professional sports team, and that training center, on the very low end, it generates $250 million a year to the economy in the state of Kansas. I say that it really has nothing to do with the ask to help us co-host the World Cup, but those are staggering numbers. And if you're not paying attention, which I wouldn't imagine you'd have any reason to, it's an important part of our economy. It's an amazing exposure for the state of Kansas when we have out-of-state people coming in. Now we have the opportunity to play on the global stage. There were major metropolitan cities that applied to serve as a host for the World Cup. Kansas City was one of only 14 that won the right to do that. I believe, is it 14? 16?
16 total.
16. Catherine will reference that in the PowerPoint, but incredible opportunity. The ask officially, Mr. Chairman, the governor had allocated $20 million in her budget. Our ask is for $8 million of additional dollars. And I'll leave you with this number. And again, I'm stepping on her toes a little bit. The conservative return on investment for that is $163 million. So I think it's wholly justified, wholly responsible. We're 100% transparent, and we will abide by any requirements of the Department of Commerce, of which where that money will reside, to make sure that that money stays on the Kansas side. That would be incredibly important to your constituents. And as we stated, in almost every committee we have presented to, we're happy to abide by any requirements, audits, what have you, to make sure that that is the case. Mr. Chairman, with that, I turn it over to Catherine Holland. I'll stand for any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate your time. And I know some of you have probably heard from me before. And I appreciate John sort of giving a little bit of an intro. I especially appreciate the sort of sentiment about the business of sport. But I would also say that this particular event is actually bigger than the sport of soccer. This is a international event, the largest international sporting event, a once in a lifetime historic opportunity for us to showcase Kansas and our region and everything that that we have to offer. Soccer is the largest sport in the world. And again, that's not to necessarily diminish the impact that the largest sport in America, which would be football and the NFL, has. But globally, soccer is the largest sport. In 2022, over 1 billion people tuned in to watch the World Cup finals, as opposed to about 114 million that tuned in to watch our beloved Kansas City Chiefs. And that will probably tune in again to watch our beloved Kansas City Chiefs hopefully bring home another Super Bowl. And it happens every 4 years. It is not an exaggeration to say that soccer fans from across the world save up for 4 years to take a month off and travel to wherever the World Cup is being hosted, and they will follow their team wherever they're competing. In this case, in any of those 3 countries: Canada, the United States, and Mexico. So again, it really is just an unprecedented opportunity to showcase Kansas from a business development opportunity, from a future tourism development opportunity. It is truly sort of money can't buy. As you'll see on the map, and I don't know if we can. Here we go. Thank you. As you see on the map, we are kind of in a beautiful landlocked island all by ourselves. We are the smallest host city, which again creates an incredible opportunity for us to really customize the experience for fans and participants that are coming into our region to experience this event. It is, again, an unprecedented opportunity to deliver community engagement and collaboration. There will be multiple volunteer opportunities for, citizens of all across Kansas to sort of rally around, whether it's supporting a local watch party in a community, or again, a volunteer opportunity to help deliver this event. We will need tens of thousands of volunteers just to assist with pulling this off. And as John mentioned, one of our biggest goals is obviously to deliver a sizable return on investment and capitalize on that visitor spending. Again, a minimum of about $163 million in incremental economic impact tied to this event. Touching on training facilities, again, we are being labeled by FIFA as the Team Base Camp Mecca for 2026. And that basically means that the location of our base camps, coupled with the high quality, thank you very much, the high quality of the facilities, means that we will likely attract the sort of premier soccer federations in the world. Our facilities will be at the higher price point of the rate card, and we can expect to attract some major federations who, again, to John's earlier point, will also bring thousands of fans with them who will live in and around where their team is practicing. And they will not only live, but they will eat, drink, visit the attractions that are available to them, and we will obviously market that accordingly. These are the current base camp opportunities that we are putting forward for consideration by the other federations. There could be an opportunity. There's been discussion about potentially folding in some facilities or a facility in Wichita. We'll just need to sort of evaluate what the amenities are for those facilities to make sure that they actually meet all of the baseline obligations and requirements to be a team base camp. But again, we do expect that we will attract some major soccer federations, and that return on investment tied to base camps will actually probably be realized sooner rather than later. They will go to market with the first version of the brochure that will promote these team base camp opportunities by the end of Q1 of this year. We can expect that quickly thereafter, we will receive inquiries from all of the potentially interested soccer federations who will want to come to the region, visit the team base camps, visit the accommodations that have been paired with those camps. They will bring heads of state, they will bring business leaders, they will obviously bring their federation leaders. And so already this year, we can expect an influx of, foreign countries who will be interested in potentially making their home in and around our region in 2026. The 163 million number that we have derived is based on sort of early estimates tied to number of matches. I should also let this committee know that we will know the match schedule on Sunday. So FIFA will finally, after many delays, release the match schedule. At which time we will know how many matches we're hosting on the dates and which rounds. We're very hopeful that we'll get through quarterfinal rounds. But we looked at the requirement that we had during the bid process, which was to demonstrate that we had a minimum of 55,000 hotel rooms within a 2.5 hour radius around the competition venue at Arrowhead Stadium. 33% of those rooms fall on the Kansas side of the state line. And I just do want to be really clear that we expect that more than 55,000 hotel rooms will be utilized. This map is just to demonstrate that that is what we had to show we had available within our region. So I firmly believe that the western side of the state of Kansas will absolutely attract visitors from hotel stays, and again, some attractions that people will want to be able to visit. And if we could just sort of skip to the budget request. Again, we respectfully request 28 to 32 million, and the lion's share of that funding, as you can see, we would like to apply towards safety and security and transportation. Safety and security is of critical importance because obviously we cannot shut down our community for 37 to 39 days, which would be the duration of the time frame that the tournament is hosted. So we need to make sure that all of the communities in and around our region have the resources to make sure that we're operating business as usual. Businesses can operate, camps, it'll be in the summertime, so camps can operate and so on and so forth. But on top of that, we do need to make sure that we're securing the overlay of this event within that. So we will need some increased security, safety and security protocols and funding in place to be able to deliver that. We do anticipate that we'll leverage mutual aid from some surrounding Midwestern states to tap into some resources that they may have available, particularly on the safety and security side. The other large budget line item is transportation. As I mentioned, our goal is to have everyone who descends upon the state of Kansas during this time experience all that Kansas has to offer. The match itself is 90 minutes, and most people will be in town for multiple days, so they will need to fill their time outside of that match. Some people may come in and not even have a ticket to the match, and they may experience the matches that are happening within Fan Fest, which is sort of an event within the event. But it is our goal to make sure that we are providing opportunities via a temporary transportation plan to make sure that we are facilitating fans being able to access, again, all of the attractions, all of the bars, all of the restaurants all around our region that we know will again leave them with an incredible experience. They'll have the opportunity to take advantage of our Midwestern hospitality. They could. One of our board members likes to use the example of, maybe there's an Asian country that comes in and they want to experience the wild, wild west of Dodge City, right? We want to make sure that we are accommodating and facilitating them being able to experience that. So the other budget line items, are just, they're more general operating principles. And these are all the sort of deliverables that we have to focus on in order to create an incredible event. But as John said, I want to reiterate, we completely appreciate and understand and respect that any funding that you may provide us in order to deliver the best event that we possibly can needs to be reinvested back into the state of Kansas to make sure that, that again, all of the communities in this state are taken care of and that the benefit really is realized and returned back to the state of Kansas. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. It is a large event. There are a lot of moving pieces. Some of the elements can be a little bit confusing. The tournament structure itself is frankly confusing. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about anything.
Representative Moser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You talked about teams coming to see Kansas City and whether they'll choose to make that their base camp. Does each individual team make that choice? And how many teams can Kansas City accommodate?
Yes. So yes, each individual team, sort of in collaboration with FIFA, makes that choice. FIFA has to have a variety of options because all of the federations have different budgets. Frankly, a smaller country will have a much smaller amount of money to spend on accommodations and training facilities than a larger, sort of soccer country like a Germany or a France or an Argentina, who's the reigning world champ. So they will choose, and we can expect to potentially host, I would say, 3 to 5 countries in our region during the World Cup.
Question I didn't see here, but it's probably here. What time frame is it in the calendar year of 26?
It is June 11th, on or around June 11th, where we don't know the exact start date. Again, that will be confirmed on Sunday, through July 19th. So it's a 37 to 39 day tournament. Matches in Kansas City, we'll probably not have multiple matches on multiple days in a row. It'll be a match, and then there'll be some time off, and then another match.
And the other question I might have for you, what do you kind of estimate or predict just in a body count, or however you want to call it, that you might expect to see traveling inside this circle in Kansas? How many human people do you think would be here?
That's a great question. And if I could, I think we're going to try and refine some of those numbers when we have a match schedule, because that will impact that number. What will also impact that is ultimately what teams are going to compete here, which we won't know for some time. But I can tell you that in 2018, about 15.8 million people it was hosted in Russia in 2018, and 15.8 million people traveled through the airports. Again, a much smaller footprint. Fewer countries were participating, and things like that. So I'm hesitant to give you a number based on the information that we have right now. But when we have a little bit more insight into matches, timing, so on and so forth, I think we can refine that and provide that number. But suffice it to say, it will be the largest event we've ever hosted in this region. It will attract more visitors than we could ever have ever previously expected in this region.
Because most people who travel, just minimal, would be maybe 150 to 350 a day per person, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I can see Kansas City can't hold them all. They have to get out somewhere, and
yeah. Well, and I think also, FIFA will contract directly with hotels for a substantial amount that will probably be within the Kansas City metro area, which actually means that there's even more opportunity to provide accommodations and housing outside of that core metropolitan area, which I believe people will take advantage of, again, as long as we have a transportation plan that allows them to easily navigate while they're here.
What the population of Kansas, Missouri are.
Now, again,
you
that's
might triple the
15 over 20 days.
Yeah.
So 15 million over 20 days. So, and there will be ebbs and flows. I do want to be clear. There'll be ebbs and flows. Again, when there's a match here, we can expect obviously a flow. And then when there's downtime, there will be fewer people that we need to sort of be mindful of.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, sorry I was late. I had some firefighters from my district in talking to me about some stuff too. So everything's kind of important. You just got to. Looking forward to this. I got a question that I'd like to ask, and it might be, I'm kind of a numbers guy, and looks like the total cost about 200 million, roughly somewhere in that neighborhood, 193 exactly, according to your paper
Total
here.
cost,
Well,
160,
funded,
165 is what we're really ultimately hoping to raise.
Okay, but on the 26 budget, it shows 28 million on top of that too yet. But anyway, this is going to generate a lot of stuff. It's something I need to be able to sell to my constituents. We're going to spend 165 million. Okay, we'll go with your number. But that's all going to come from tax revenues or state general funds or some budgeting funds. Of all the things it's going to do for the state, has anybody looked at how much revenue that'll generate for the state in a positive number then? You know what I'm talking about? Because all these are going to spend money, they're going to pay taxes, they're going to pay sales taxes, they're going to pay all kinds of things. And it's kind of exciting to me to see if this actually, so I can sell it to my constituents, that number is what it costs to fund, but it's going to generate millions of dollars in addition to, is it going to be 168 million or 268 million?
Sure. So that the $165 million that we're looking to raise is very much public-private collaboration. So we will be seeking private, donations and sponsorship dollars and things like that. And then with respect to the return, so we're asking Kansas for between 28 and 32 million. Our conservative estimated return on that is 163 million. That is again only based on early information that we have. That number was actually generated prior to the tournament being increased in size a couple of times. So again, I would, respectfully ask that we figure out what the match schedule is, and then I think we collectively are going to put pen to paper and refine what that return really looks like, and also look at what it looks like across sectors and specific to sort of taxes and other opportunities.
Yeah, I don't mean to barge in, but that's I think you know how at least our firm does business. We're looking to be fully transparent on this, and we're not looking to bamboozle anyone. I have sat in a fair number of committees where pie in the sky projects have been pitched to the state with promises of great returns to the state. We have a lot of data to suggest that these are real numbers, right? And we stand behind them. The total contribution for the state of Kansas is only 17% of what it's going to cost to co-host this. I think this is, when I said this is a very responsible ask, that's what I meant, is that there will be a considerable amount of activity and spend on the Missouri side. We need to be smart and do whatever we can to get as much spend on the Kansas side as possible. And that's where these training facilities, that's where we rely on the Department of Commerce to promote different things to do and see on the Kansas side. The hotels are going to be pushed out far beyond the northeast part of the state. This is just tremendous. The benefit to the state is not only short term, and again, $163 million, which I will be shocked if I'm not standing here in front of you saying we were way off. It's considerably higher. But it's also, what's the long-term benefit? Good Lord, with all of these people coming in, if we're, again, smart with this money, properly promoting Kansas as a good place to live, work, maybe set up a manufacturing facility, which will mean jobs. We've got a lot to be proud of. When will we ever get this opportunity again to put our state on a global stage and say, come visit us and come stay with us?
Well, I appreciate that. And I hope you don't think I was trying to be negative. I was trying to be positive to see what this investment would bring the state with all the, I'm a salesperson too, I'm from the country, but, I know two and two. And I look, my boss always said, I don't care what you do as long as you make money, and if you lose money, we're going to have a talk or you might be making a career change. But I'm excited because, again, when I look at this, and like you say, I got it, it's just I can't comprehend what's the term I want to use? Return on investment, but there's another, what's the impact? Yeah, impact or something that's going to do that we can go home and be positive. And when you talk about it, you get excited and you get goosebumps and people say, well, I never thought of that. That's what you got to do to sell it. And like I said, I think it's kind of cool because it's coming maybe to Hutchinson and Prairie Dunes, but I can't afford to go to Prairie Dunes even, if I get invited because, but
Well, and
you know what I mean? So I'm trying to make fun of, not make fun of it, but I'm trying to make it in a positive, exciting way that you can enthusiastically sell people what we're doing here.
And I think that we've talked a lot about international visitors, but I think what should not be undersold is the number of national visitors from the United States who, for whatever reason, might not have contemplated visiting our region and visiting the state of Kansas. And now their interest is very piqued. They're like, wow, this, they're hosting World Cup. We will be more affordable than any other host city. So I think we can expect to attract a lot of people through those efforts as well. And I want to be clear, we very much want to collaborate on, Bridget Job is very engaged around the project, and we very much want to collaborate on how do we promote the attractions, all across the state of Kansas. What do we want to sort of work on from a messaging standpoint? What do we want to promote? What is a potential legacy project, tied to the state of Kansas? So it very much should be collaborative. We're not just asking for this funding that will be spent in isolation.
Please don't think I'm complaining.
No,
I'm
no.
excited. And it's like, you can't sell a car without them seeing it, and if they can drive it and see what it's like, then, they got to see what Kansas is like. Cause I think it's a great state and it's a great way to promote it. Cause the people coming to this got a few bucks to spend probably. I'm not going to say they're on a bus ticket, you know, and I don't want to make anybody mad with Greyhound here. Is anybody here from Greyhound? You know,
They may do that.
Oh, I think they'll explore the whole region because they haven't necessarily had as compelling a reason as this, and it is the largest event in the history of the world, sporting or otherwise.
okay. Well, thank you again. I hope I didn't put a negative connotation.
No, I
in it,
appreciate
you know.
it. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
good.
Arbor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Catherine and John. So you said possibly we'll have five teams that will be hosting, but don't teams, like they'll be playing teams from other host cities coming in.
Yes.
So it won't just be the ones that are here. It'll be the others coming in that will say, be looking at Kansas and maybe say, hey,
Yes.
maybe we need to come back and visit here sometime.
That's exactly right. So,
That's the way I try to understand that.
yes.
So it really, yeah, it's important that we get teams here, but also realize that a lot of other teams will be coming with their fans.
Absolutely. So it's sort of two segments, right? You've got the teams that will live here in base camp, and then the teams that will travel in to compete, which you're absolutely right is another incredible opportunity for us to promote the region, because they'll have to be in town probably match day minus 2 or 3 days to train in advance.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Mosier?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So we've talked about Kansas, and obviously Missouri is going to be involved. What about Iowa and Nebraska? Have you done any reaching out to those states, and what does that look like? Thank you.
That's a great question. And yes, we have a very good relationship with sort of the surrounding states. And in fact, it was a critical part of our bid. We actually worked with the youth soccer associations in 9 surrounding states and secured their formal endorsement of Kansas City's bid, not Denver, not Nashville, not Cincinnati, but Kansas City. So we have a great relationship. I think our intention is to ask them for support in the form of resources, largely people resources, right? Again, I mentioned mutual aid because we will need to tap into those surrounding states who may have a little bit more bandwidth at that time, and we can borrow resources for them. We have not necessarily fleshed out a strategy where we request funding in the form of cash from those surrounding states, but absolutely in the form of resources. Again, leaning into those 2 major budget line items: safety and security and transportation. We're probably going to need to borrow buses from the surrounding states in order to build out the transit system that we need to deliver. Things like that. So resources.
Thank you. A question about hotels in those 2 states. Are you advocating for people to drive, 90 miles up into Iowa? Or, because there's a lot of hotels close in Iowa and Nebraska that.
I would not say that we will probably actively promote that. No, we will want to promote the hotels in Kansas and Missouri as our largest potential funding partners. Respectfully, if people find them on their own, great. But as far as the resources that we will control, the apps and the marketing resources, we would not push them outside of Kansas or Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Catherine, for being here. As you all know, this is happening in my backyard in Kansas City, Kansas. So my community is incredibly excited about this opportunity that we have, not only for KCK, but it's going to just benefit our entire state. We have such an opportunity here, and it's going to be a wonderful investment that we make, but it's also up to us to take full advantage of it. And there's a lot to get done between now and 2026 when all of these people are going to be coming to visit us. So I'm definitely excited about this and want to be very supportive of us being a good partner in this. But then also, Mr. Chairman, I know that we'll be hearing other budgets as well, and I want to make sure that we're giving the resources that we need to our other state departments, like our Division of Travel and Tourism and our wildlife and parks and them too, because they're going to be able, they're the ones that are going to have to help promote our state and put it in a good light. So every time I hear, like you always hear something else. So one question that I did have, Catherine, is that it occurred to me on the safety and security dollars. So perhaps we're going to be using some of that to augment our local law enforcement, not necessarily like paying for like new additional security, but then I'm hearing you with the mutual aid, we may have like some overtime costs or costs from like other law enforcement agencies that are helping us. Is that how that's kind of okay? That makes sense now. Okay.
And I think our primary responsibility is to augment the, again, business as usual, baseline safety and security in the cities where there will be base camps and where we know there's going to be, additional visitors and coming to those areas. But then again, it's a regional spread, so we just need to make sure that everybody is supported. And we're having conversations at the federal level about them providing some support as well to all the 11 U.S. host cities. That is also something I should mention. There's an incredible collaboration amongst the 11 U.S. host cities to try and again leverage as many federal resources as we can to, frankly, lessen the burden of the local lift.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Every time I listen to your presentation, I come up with more excitement. It's just more exciting every time we hear it. But I have some ideas here to ask about from today's comments. They don't run together. They were all over the place. But that's the beauty of what we're doing, is that it affects everything in the state and in the area. You said, I'll just start at the top of my notes. You said something about having 10,000 volunteers. How are you coordinating that? Does that go through local chambers and local communities, or you got to have somebody at the top of that, or?
Yeah, so, and we will collaborate very directly with FIFA. So FIFA will work with us on the sort of the vetting process. As you can imagine, these volunteers have to be inside secure perimeters and things like that. So there is a pretty robust vetting background check process that happens that FIFA will manage. And so we will work with them on that side, but we will be able to basically identify specific groups that we would like to basically submit. If they're interested. Such as,
that's what I was kind of getting at, is what kind of groups do you?
Yeah, the quickest example that comes to mind is the local Kansas City Sports Commission has a very robust database of volunteers that we know are, sort of responsible and show up for their shifts and things like that.
It's like the folks that volunteer at K-State or
absolutely,
something like
yes.
That.
Universities.
I accidentally walked in on I went to a meeting at 8:30 in the morning, which was unusual for me. And it was at K-State, and I walked in, it was the wrong meeting, but they were all planning for Saturday's football game.
Yeah. Yep.
And everybody that had anything to do was there. So I've seen that kind of planning. And then I was also thinking about the Volunteers for Country Stampede. Yeah. We had that in Manhattan for years. And, my neighbors were out there volunteering. And so I don't know who arranged for those. But I think that's a huge, and I'm thinking of the state fair. When we go to the state fair, there's all these people that come every year to volunteer because they can get in free. Yeah. They work really hard in the heat.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, some of, I'm just looking at the massive responsibility you're taking on, and I appreciate it very much. You did say hotel contracts have already been let, and that you have not done any for Iowa and Nebraska. I think you stated that so that was just one point that you didn't say today. I also was thinking about EMT and medical support, because you can't go to a kids' baseball tournament without an ambulance there. So I'm thinking those might be the areas that we ask for Iowa and Nebraska and maybe Oklahoma to Missouri to. They can give us a little bit and be a part of it in that way. And thinking about the question or the comment that Representative Curtis made about the other budgets, I remember our wildlife and parks after the floods and stuff, how the roads got torn up. And during Country Stampede, how the park got torn up with rain because it always rained during Country Stampede. So I'm thinking about how we support those agencies for, I mean, roads into parks are going to be really important to people who want to just camp out and bring a tent instead of getting a hotel. So I'm just amazed at all the things. And I wrote a question down. My first question is, who's responsible for the list of opportunities for entertainment? Now I remember what it meant. I mean, is there a catalog coming out of does every chamber have a rack, and you have a rack of all the, like at a hotel, when you go to a hotel, there's all these brochures of what's in the neighborhood. I mean,
Yeah.
we all need to start working on that.
Yes. I think by 2026, it'll likely be, and again, we have sustainability goals that we have to manage against. So we're already having conversations with FIFA and, sort of adjacent to FIFA about what that looks like. What does the app look like? Because there's going to be have to be some central source of information that provides everything from match schedule times to transportation, routes and maps to entertainment options, to other watch parties in and around the region that we want to promote. Again, to drive folks to the different cities and towns. So that will all be part of the marketing communication strategy and work stream.
Well, I think my question is, who's responsible for it? Because if our local community is having a base camp, which I'm thrilled to know about, then our community needs to do a big promotion. So what you're saying is they need to create pieces for an app.
Potentially, yeah, yes,
There's-
yes.
You're not talking about paper. You don't want it all over the ground, for one thing, but broadband and all that stuff too. Jeez.
We will have, there's eventually we'll have a full staff, right? And there will be a director of community engagement and a director of marketing communications that is sort of responsible for making sure that all of that information is being appropriately disseminated and captured so that we are, again, mindful of promoting everything that is available while folks are in town.
Well, when it comes to Manhattan, I would love to be in the room.
Okay.
Kind of a marketing background myself.
Perfect.
I'd love to be in the
Put
room
you on
when
the
you talk
marketing
about how.
working group.
Yeah, I'd like to know how we can help to get people to the cool things that we have that maybe they would never find.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. We have to. That's critical
All
importance.
right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, do you have any other questions for Catherine? Okay, Representative Bloom?
Devil's advocate. Where I'm from, 2/3 of the people are not going to have a watch party.
Okay.
Their taxes are going to go for this, and they're going to get nothing back from it. They could care less about soccer. And I suppose it's good for the state. We're going to put this state money in. Are there going to be a lot of private businesses really make a lot of money off of it? And are their taxes going to go back to the state?
Yes, yeah. I think
Funding private businesses?
I guess
we're not putting up this money for the Chiefs. Why are we doing this for? And they would have a bigger impact than this world, right?
yeah.
now.
I think again we have to contemplate small business owners, bars, restaurants. Again, the attractions that we want to
That's just in this little area around Kansas City. There's 2/3 of Kansas that could care less. And if you think they're going to take buses to Dodge City, think again, because they're not. It's going to be hot. It's going to be miserable, and I don't think they're going to do it. Maybe they will. I don't know. You said the conservative return of interest. Who's getting the biggest return? Of the money that the taxes we put in to support this, who's getting the biggest amount of money back? Private businesses? Will it go back to the state? Will the state get their money back?
yes, I believe that to be true. Yes, I think
Or the rest of this Kansas that could give a hoot and their tax money is going to this. How are you going to compensate them? Because all these businesses in Kansas City are going to get really rich off of this from our money from this investment.
I can address that. I can say respectfully, I would disagree about the interest in the far reaches of Kansas with people that are traveling from out of state or from other nations coming in. Dodge City, the majority of their visitors are from other countries. There's a love affair of the West, the Wild West. They'll be interested in the Eisenhower Museum, the Cosmosphere. They're going to go far and why. So I, again, as respectfully as I can, I believe there will be benefit. But the point I tried to make, and I didn't make it very well, is that the return on investment, even though your community, and I think that is a very fair question, what's in it for my constituents? I have to go back and I have to convince them that this was a worthy investment. And I know you want to lower taxes. The revenue that will be generated for the state frees up money in other places. So it is essentially one step back, the commitment of an additional $8 to $12 million above the governor's recommendation. And then it's going to generate revenue here before long, which the entire state can benefit from. And it could be to lower taxes, put money in schools, whatever it is, that money is coming to the state. And then that can be spent however you all want it to. So I think it does absolutely benefit every single taxpayer in the state of Kansas. It may take a year or two, but who else can come up here and say, we're going to attract all of these people, of which we can promote the state of Kansas, attract workers, and by the way, return $160 some odd million back to you to use somewhere else. We're trying to find ways, and we're willing to work with you how to message this back. And that goes to my point. We're not trying to bamboozle. We want to be wholly transparent to make sure that you can justify this as a good investment as a state legislator.
Well, respectfully, we've heard this before. You know, the lottery money was supposed to go for education too, and that didn't happen. Yes, it was.
Let's go, let's stay on topic here. We can talk about some of the other failures of the state later. So,
Mr. Chair, respectfully, I think sales tax revenue is where we're going to see the money mostly, because everything they buy is going to be taxed at 6%. And it comes right back to Kansas, and we'll see that immediately. One of the things you've mentioned in other presentations is the lag time between matches. I mean, so we're wondering how they have time to go to Dodge City, or if they would take that time. Talk about that a little bit. You've said it before.
Sure. Yes. So you got the soccer match is 90 minutes minimum, and normally doesn't go that much longer than 90 minutes. And so that's the time that the folks that have tickets will be out at the stadium. But I think people will plan multi-day trips. We will also not necessarily have.
Times is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Between matches.
Yes. So
not hours, but days.
Days. Yeah. So I mean, we will likely not have matches for 3 days in a row. It'll be a match and then 3 days off, and then a match and then 3 days off. Again, we'll know for certain on Sunday. But point being, I think that there's going to be a lot of time to fill these people that are planning trips. I mean, it's a leisure travel situation, so they are going to want to sort of plan day trips in and around the region before they, I don't know, leave to head to another host city for their team's match 4 days from when they're in our region. So it's not like it's going to be. There will be time. There will be time for them to explore, build out an itinerary to, again, visit everything in and around this region. Because I think they're going to want to make the most of their time here and see as much as they possibly can outside of downtown Kansas City, Missouri, frankly.
Representative Garber.
So when we can obviously look back at history of other cities that have sponsored this and throughout the world. I mean, we can probably get a pretty good look at that and see how that affected the other areas, surrounding areas of the sponsoring cities.
Yes, we've looked at Salt Lake City as a potential example, using when they hosted the Olympics. I will say that I think that the positive of the 26 World Cup is that there is not really any ground up infrastructure build required. Unlike probably every other previous event, including the Olympics and World Cup, they've had to build stadiums or build facilities to house an aquatic center. We don't have to do that, which actually makes our ability to positively impact the return even better, right? Because we don't have that heavy lift of having to sort of pay off the construction of a new building or a new facility. It is literally just sort of making sure that we're delivering an incredible experience and making sure that the money is reinvested back in to the benefit of the citizens of Kansas.
Committee. Representative Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So are you going to reach out to all the cities in the state and say, send us your resume? What do you have that people might want to go and see?
Yeah.
Is that?
100%. Yep.
Thank
And we
you.
will also provide them with toolkits, directions on what logo they can use to market however they want, right? If they wanted to host a watch party, we will provide guidance and direction on how to secure the broadcast rights, how to market it effectively. All of that is part of the strategic activation plan.
So I think it's a great thing. If you're in small business, it could be that some of these people in small business may make enough money in 60 days to make their year. And I think if people are on the ball, you would have Route 66 tours, Highway 36. I'd like to see, I think regardless of what you think, I think if people got their act together, you could almost do a train to Dodge City. And
Newton to Dodge City, I took that once myself.
I think if you have this many thousands of people with this much money, with this much time to do nothing but spend it, we have to make sure that when they come here, that they say on their way home, Missouri sucks. Kansas was really great. And,
Yeah, not
that's
for
our
nothing.
job.
Yeah. FIFA already refers to it as Kansas.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I say you got to add the city at the end, they refer to Kansas all the time already. That's yes.
As one of the smartest men here in the room said, it's not called Missouri City.
Yeah.
Missouri City.
Yeah. I had an airport tour with them recently. They just kept referring to Kansas,
So,
here in Kansas, here in Kansas. I said once, we're actually in Missouri, and I didn't say it again.
keep us in the loop. I'm sure we all want to go somewhere. So if you are through, and you have any more questions, we are adjourned.